Title 17 U.S. Code 512F provides penalties for the deliberate misrepresentation of copyright infringement. The owners and authors of this video, the common denominator, and the Paramystic Broadcast Channel are a nonprofit 501c3 exempt organization and believes in good faith that it constitutes educational fair use, as per Title 17 U.S.C. 107. Persons, agencies, attorneys, and/or social media algorithms filing a false or frivolous Digital Millennium Copyright Act complaint may be subject to civil liability. Warning: the following content may contain elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Accordingly, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody.
I'm doing pretty good. It's nice and mosquito-filled here in Florida, but no tornadoes. Well, we had one earlier this year, but no tornadoes.
No. If you want tornadoes, come on over to Oklahoma. We got plenty of them.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
We got more than our share.
Yeah, Dion's been getting plenty of tornadoes up where he lives at. I have a feeling I'm going to get my payback, though, here in a few months and around September. So
Yeah. Oh, you're right in the middle of hurricane season, so it's all fair and game.
No, hurricane season hadn't even started here yet, so I don't think it starts till June 1st or something. So I've already seen they had a tropical low pressure system, but it was up in the northeast Atlantic, so that wasn't going to hit us, but it still is already forming, so that's always a nice little thing, I guess you could say. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Condeleon.
Yes, thank you, sir. We were back last week too, though, weren't we?
Yeah, we were back last week, but we're really glad for us to be back this week, seeing as how I didn't get blown away Friday night, Saturday morning.
Yes, you were not driving I was very worried for you because you were driving pretty much right through those sulfur tornadoes, those sulfur Oklahoma tornadoes.
Yeah.
Sally, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Well,
of course, it wasn't like you
as anybody that follows me on my personal page, I went live with it just so if anybody had any questions about what happened, they'd see it firsthand.
Yeah.
Because right in the middle of it, going up the interstate, I got a one of these little bad boys. Now that's all fine and dandy for people who have those places to go, but when you're a truck driver, you just got to ride it out.
Well, even if you were at the truck stop and not on the road, I don't know what you were going to do.
You get blown away before you ever get to the interior building.
Right.
And then the only safe place to get is probably a bathroom or a walk-in cooler.
Yeah, a walk-in cooler seems like it would be pretty safe. I've had to put those together before, so yeah, they might be safe.
Well, they're anchored to the foundation.
they are anchored to this foundation, but most of them are made of aluminum on the outside. So, but you'd have insulation and everything else in there. Unless that tornado broke through, then you might have to
Well,
worry about them flying around. If stuff in there.
Sometimes you just gotta hang in there and trust that God's your best friend. And he was.
I was gonna say he was definitely one of your best friends that night.
I'm living proof he loves us all.
What was that? Saturday night, Friday night, or Saturday night?
Friday night, Saturday morning.
Friday night, yeah.
Sunday morning, I was delivering produce and meat fresh to the store after they brought in a huge, and that town's gone. It's devastated.
I've been seeing the videos.
It's devastated.
Seeing the videos.
And the man who actually was unloading me was working his second shift straight because people that normally work those shifts were calling in. They couldn't even get to the house. They had no get to work. They didn't even have a way to get there.
I believe it. I saw a bunch of those, and yeah, Sulphur was pretty much wiped off the map.
Downtown.
They didn't get hit by just one tornado. They got hit directly by two.
And one of them was an F3.
I was going to say one of them right now they've rated at least an F3. I think I actually have a few.
I have seen reports where they said they were F4s, but
I believe that there was at least one in Nebraska. The Lincoln tornado they might have rated as an F4 already.
Yeah. The one that hit the Marietta Family Dollar or the Dollar Tree, DC, which is where one of the truck drivers got killed. He got blown off the road.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
Here is one video that I don't know if anybody's seen or not, but this is actually up in Nebraska I saw. And this was somebody that was stuck on a railroad instead of a regular highway. That was a train, just to show you. And I was thinking, that would suck being stuck there, but a train would probably be a pretty safe train engine anyway, would probably be a fairly safe place to be, as heavy as those are. And
well, if you're stuck next to one, that's probably the safest place to be is under it.
Well, they were in it, in the engine. So let's see. And I'll fast forward some.
I might go right over top of this. I'm thinking it is. Overstay small like that when it does.
And you can see that thing building, and
oh yeah,
that's when it's close enough to where you can see that thing is actually coming right at you, instead of being far away to where it's just.
And it never ceases to amaze me at how green the air gets right before it forms.
Something that is crazy about where since I've been living in Florida, you will see that kind of air all the time. And if I lived in Texas or Oklahoma or something like that, I would swear that a tornado was about to drop, and it would be no sign from it whatsoever.
Just checking. Holy shit. That just took that building out. That did.
Yep, there he goes. There goes the line.
Should we get away from the windows?
Hey, running with scissors.
Thank you, Trevor. Right over us. Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, I'd definitely be getting down.
We'll have a car on the ground. We're gonna have something.
I know how it is when you see all that stuff come flying at you.
Shit on our windows. Got shit all on the
busted the window.
Yeah, it's shattered. That's tempered, so I could see why that would get shattered.
Yeah. Oh, it's a double plane window.
This was in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it knocked the car over. Let me see. Yeah, we got trees and everything else behind us. Yeah. Yeah, it knocked the car over.
Yep.
Yeah, we ain't going nowhere. We're on the ground. Yeah. There's anything.
I'm sure NSF was real happy with that one.
Oh, I'm sure that one. I had one more that was kind of short. That was not the same thing.
But yeah, folks, whenever I tell you you need to start getting storm prepared because you never know what's going to happen, you do need to have an emergency to go bag. Copies of all your important paperwork, your identification, emergency cash. I know we don't have a lot of it to spare, but even $100 in something like this will mean the difference between whether you're going to eat or not.
Yeah, and that's one of them things. That's what it's going to take the most of for. That's what's going to end up getting rid of this wanting to go cashless. Is wait till tornadoes and stuff like that. The thing with tornadoes and the big thunderstorms is it still doesn't hit and knock out. You're still going to be able to go to the neighboring towns once the roads are cleared. If you have a massive earthquake or hurricane or something, that's likely to take out hundreds of square miles of area. So yes, like
Thank you,
Scissor
running
said,
with scissors.
bug out bag.
Bug out bag.
Yeah.
Bug out bag is something that everybody gets this snarly look on their face whenever I say anything about it, because that says, "Oh, you're a crazy pepper." No, I'm ready for all events and emergencies.
And here's the video I was looking for. This isn't from this weekend's tornado outbreak. This is from last weekend's tornado outbreak. And,
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe, what's going on? Nice to see you in here. You kind of live up there, I think, in that area somewhat. Maybe not getting hit like this, but, So, yeah, this is from Abilene, Texas. And I'm still getting used to having two different systems hooked up to here, so bear with me on this. I'm trying to share the wrong screen.
Well, folks, while Chad is trying to get this pulled up, I'm going to tell you, if you haven't watched Ryan Hall, you need to follow him. He was the one that kept me advised of where the tornadoes were, how they were forming, when they were forming. He's part of the reason I'm alive today, other than the fact that God just loves me.
I really like Ryan Hall, y'all. I've got a video to play that's about 14 minutes long of his prediction for the 2024 season. And I think it was from back in February. And it's pretty much all happening. So this was from
look, that's a semi.
Yeah. Is it going to get all jerky?
No, that's a car.
I don't know why it's all jerky.
Yep, there it is. Trains are not immune to them either.
And those are... Where do they put a lot of those shipping containers at, Sally?
Rail yards.
I was thinking not maybe those big, but a lot of them just go on the back of semis, don't they?
Yeah, they get put on chassis.
Yeah. I wonder how long it took them to get that back open.
I know the feeling, Joe. I know the feeling. But depending on how big of a tornado.
Yeah, he meant doesn't get hit. So
Oh, doesn't? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it depends on,
Oh, this train derailed.
what section.
Train derailed. Oh my gosh. I knew it was gonna blow it over, bro. Holy sh! Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's right. Oh. Damn.
Yep, them things are strapped down. I could imagine getting hit by the wind, them things just blowing right over, no matter how much
Well,
they
they're
weigh.
not strapped down. They're locked in with pins.
Okay, lockdown. You know what I meant.
Yeah, they're locked in with pins because when they go off of those rails, they get stacked, and when they get transported from the rail yards, they're locked in with pins on a chassis.
Well, yeah, right. I know what you're saying. My point was is that they're locked in so that they don't just blow off of the rail car. They take the whole rail car with them and whatever's connected to them.
Oh yeah,
down on the
yeah.
rails. So that was what I was saying. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that then I'm going to go ahead and play this from Ryan Hall, and we can talk about it afterwards. This, like I said, this was he doesn't appear to be out chasing today. He had a long night Saturday chasing, so he was online for 12 hours straight at least. And it does look like there's even more storm chasers picking up.
He has about 8 to 12 storm chasers that work with him.
Right.
Depending on what area of the country he's in.
So he's I really like watching him. So
yep.
Let's see. This was Ryan Hall's prediction, and it talks a lot about the La Nina and the El Nino. And it's only 8 minutes, so that's not bad. So he's good at getting down and to the point on his videos, so I will give him much credit for that.
Yep. And if you heard that, the truck stop is mowing the grass in between storms.
Oh, well, I guess it's better than doing it in the storm.
Yeah, well, they haven't had a real big chance of it because there's that handsome man that keeps me safe. Been a fan of his for years.
I got it. I was thinking this was our La Nina year, and we've been in El Nino, but it's the other way around. We've been in La Nina, and we're going back into El Nino, but this year they said is a unusual circumstance where they're still trying to cross over each other, and they don't know which one is going to be the warm water coming in. Which,
yeah, Mother Nature is so confused, and she don't know whether she's having a hot flash or just chilling.
And that would also be the La Nina years would also be what would cause all the rain in California. The El Ninos will cause the droughts. Also, something he mentions in this video is going back to 1991 when he was the last time he found current weather conditions like we have now. And also, that's whenever I remember them first even detecting El Ninos.
Yeah.
So, that was because they blamed, I remember in Texas growing up in around 1991, they blamed every weather event on El Nino. So here we go. I'll go ahead and play his predictions from 2 months ago.
For the past 3 years, our weather pattern has been dominated by cool waters in the Pacific known as La Nina. But over the past few months, those waters have been warming up dramatically, thrusting us into what we call a strong El Nino. This has had profound impacts on our winter weather here in the U.S., and its influence will continue to be felt as we go into spring and tornado season. You see, last year, the U.S. had 1,308 tornadoes, and in 2022, we experienced 1,175 tornadoes. And the most active year out of the past 3 was 2021, where 1,316 tornadoes ripped across the country. When you average all of those out, the past 3 years had been more active than usual in terms of tornadic activity. And we're not just talking about the sheer number of tornadoes here. Over those 3 years, the impact these tornadoes had was extraordinary, with over $9 billion in estimated damages and more than 200 fatalities. Keep in mind find that all three of these tornado seasons happened during La Nina years, which are actually notorious for bringing about increased tornado activity, especially towards the south central US. Actually, in a study published by Nature Geoscience in 2015, the influence of El Nino and La Nina was examined in terms of tornado and hailstorm activity over the past 50 years or so. In these maps, purple indicates a higher storm event frequency and brown indicates a lower storm event frequency. And as you can see, springtime tornadoes and hailstorms are much more frequent in the south central US during La Nina periods. In fact, if you really look at this blue zone here, it pretty much is exactly where the vast majority of our most memorable storms of the past 3 years have happened. The influence of La Nina is very apparent in the archive of tornado coverage we've done here on this channel. And it all boils down to La Nina's impact on our jet stream winds here in the US. Thanks to those cooler waters in the Pacific, leading to decreased storm activity near the equator, our upper level winds here in the United States are allowed to wander farther north. This allows storms to more often pull in warm, moist air into tornado-producing systems. But this year, I think we're going to be looking at a completely different picture. The cool waters around the equator have been heating up, leading to a moderate to strong El Nino. This is actually causing more thunderstorms down there, and therefore a more concentrated subtropical jet stream interacting with the southern US. This is keeping the majority of our flow of jet stream winds farther south and not allowing as much moisture advection into the US. As a result, if this continues into spring, less tornadoes may form due to a lack of activity. But that's what would happen if El Nino continues to dominate the weather pattern in the typical way. And of course, things can't be that simple. What we are about to experience is not typical. Even though we are coming off of an extended La Nina run that lasted a whopping 3 years, it looks like our El Nino will be over in a blink of an eye. In fact, the waters in the Pacific Ocean are already starting to cool off a bit.
So this was back a month or so ago whenever Florida was getting tornadoes and stuff, was whenever we were hitting the stage that he's talking about at that point. So now he's talking about what we're going into now.
Now, don't get me wrong, they're still really warm right now, but the consensus is that the warming period has stopped, and all those thunderstorms down there are going to start the process of cooling that water down. This is going to cause a major ripple effect in our weather patterns that will change everything. It will almost be as much of a shock to the system as trying liquid IV for the first time and realizing what it feels like to actually.
So hold on a second. Sorry, Ryan, I'm fast forwarding through your commercial there.
Back into it. The forecast is for the waters in the Pacific to start really cooling off as we go towards summer. So this spring, we are actually going to be in the beginning stages of transitioning away from El Nino, which will bring about slightly different weather patterns from what we are used to seeing during a static El Nino or La Nina. Instead of seeing a steady and locked in subtropical southern jet stream, at some points we may get more wobbles and kinks. And it is possible that during this transition, when those jet stream winds are allowed to wander farther north, a lot of pent-up energy down south will be unleashed, leading to a period of increased storm activity in the.
And that right there is what happened Friday night and Saturday.
That's what's happening still. Tell me that map doesn't cover exactly where all them tornadoes hit.
That's exactly what I went through because I was in New Boston, Texas, coming back to Paul's Valley when those storms were developing, and you could just feel the moisture and the heat being sucked northward into it.
So
in the states, especially in the Great Plains, or what is typically known as Tornado Alley. This burst of energy is usually followed by what we call tornado outbreak sequences, and they typically happen in May. There are several examples of this in the past, including as recently as May of 2016. This also lined up perfectly with a weakening El Nino and eventual transition into La Nina, just like we are seeing this year. And I think the forecast for this year is going to be very similar to 2016 in a lot of ways. But another really important important thing to point out
I
is
remember
that
that year
El Nino
too.
and La Nina are not the only things that control our weather here in the U.S. There are other oscillations that impact our weather on a broad scale, like the NPO, or North Pacific Oscillation. And basically what we're looking at here are the temperature anomalies in the Pacific Ocean, but upstream from the United States in the northern Pacific. You see, usually when the equatorial Pacific waters are cooler than usual, or when we are in a La Nina, the waters in the North Pacific are actually opposite or warmer than average. Same goes for when we are in an El Nino, we expect the North Pacific to be cooler than average. They're usually flip-flopped. But what's really interesting about this year is, even though our El Nino will be transitioning out, for most of the spring, the waters near the equator will be warm. And despite this, we are expecting the waters in the North Pacific to be warm this spring as well. So we won't see
Oh,
that
we're in
opposite effect that we
trouble.
normally do. This is so uncommon that it really narrows down the process of looking for similar occurrences in the past. In fact, in order to find the most similar situation to what we are experiencing this year, I had to go all the way back to 1991. Thanks to that good old El Nino pattern and the anomalously warm waters in the North Pacific, this year featured below average tornadic activity, but there was a big spike in the Central Plains thanks to those tornado outbreak sequences. And just look at all that lack of activity around the Deep South. Now, with all that being said, here's my official spring 2024 tornado outlook. First of all, I think it's obvious that we're going to see a big shift from what we're used to seeing, okay? I think we're going to have most of our tornado activity taking place in the plains this year. From the panhandle of Texas up through the upper Midwest, I think we're going to see more tornadoes than usual. In fact, in the middle of that, I think there's a good chance that we see much more tornadoes than average this year, thanks to those tornado outbreak sequences. But keep in mind that even though I think we're
Tell me his outbreak map is not right on.
His
right
outbreak
now.
map was spot on.
going to have more
For right
tornadoes
now,
than
this
usual
month
in this
anyway.
area. That doesn't mean that I think that we're going to have more tornadoes than usual throughout the entire year. And this is actually because I think we're going to see fewer than or close to an average amount of tornadoes in Dixie Alley and in the south central US. For the first time in 3 or 4 years, this area might be getting a real break. But of course, all that does not mean that there won't be tornadoes down here. We will still see severe weather and tornadoes on a regular basis in places like Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama this year. But hopefully, given all the data we've looked at in this forecast, it is going to be a little bit less intense. And no matter where you live, you should use this as a reminder that tornado season is coming. And whether we have an above average year or not, all it takes is one tornado to change your life forever. So please take this time to go over your tornado action plan, talk to your family about what you're going to do when that next tornado warning comes through, and of course, subscribe to this channel because we're going to be staying on top of it this spring. When and if things go nuts and a tornado outbreak is underway, you know we're going to be right here on this channel live for up to 12 hours straight with commercial-free coverage of the situation. We're going to have more storm chasers this year, more cameras, and even more in-depth radar coverage of the most dangerous events. Turn on those notifications so you never miss a live stream, and I will see you in the next one.
And so
I'm going to tell you what he did. He stayed on the air the entire time this was going on.
I was following him and several others, and yeah, Dion's right about a lot of that. Dijon is right about a lot of that. If you would quit writing such big things and not cover our faces there, Dion. But that dang sure wasn't the case this weekend because them storms stayed going strong the whole time.
Well, they just kept popping one right on top of the other.
Oh, yeah.
And that was what was so bad with the Marietta and the Sulphur Oklahoma tornadoes is one was running right behind the other.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, well, it wasn't even that line.
I mean, there was like
days,
45 minutes to an hour in between both of those tornadoes touching down in Sulphur. That's why there's so much devastation there.
These last few days with the way that jet stream's going, like he talked about, and the way that trough has been, these storms haven't been moving. I mean, most of the time when these fronts come through like that, they'll just keep blowing east until they dissolve. In fact, pretty much every one of these storms over the last few years might cause an outbreak, but by the time they get to us, they're nothing. And we haven't even been, they're not even moving east. We're supposed to have rain not this weekend, but next weekend. And that's the first time it's supposed to get back here.
Yep.
So I mean, it usually isn't. Usually we get a sprinkler stuff. I've been out here on lives whenever they've come through here and have been like, "Oh, that was it." Okay.
Yeah,
So,
but those pop up every day there.
Well, not this time of year. They don't. Later in the year, they'll start popping up every day. That's why hurricane season can be so bad here because it rains every day, so everything's already flooded. So that's why a lot of times when we get real bad hurricane seasons, which this one is predicted to be right now because of this
kind of
weather
rocky.
pattern. So that instead of
well, we're seeing tornadoes coming in California, which they're not used to.
Well, that could also be because of the early La Nina stage or El Nino stage that was starting to develop, and now you see that their weather's calmed down a little bit. Even though a couple of people I know that live in California that live 2 towns apart, one was saying it was pouring down rain at her house, and another one was saying it wasn't raining a drop at their house. So,
the thing about California is they go so long in between rain seasons that it gets so dry that they have mudslides and the torrential flooding.
Yeah, you're right.
And I mean, the ground is so hard baked that the ground doesn't absorb it.
And I know this is off track. I wasn't showing you this or nothing, but this is from a video from to show you how far we've come with hurricane or with storm prediction. This is of a plane crash that happened at DFW in 1985. So, and the crash was caused by a microburst, which is something you find in supercells. I'm sure you already knew that, but a microburst, it's something that's found in supercells. And a lot of people do mistake them for tornadoes, but they actually are just pretty much when you say the bottom of the cloud drops out, from rain, This is the same thing, but the wind as well. And this is a short video, but it's just.
And that's what causes so many airplane crashes, because you can just be flying along and all of a sudden you get this huge microburst down and it just shoves the plane down into the ground.
Well, that's what happened with this one. One of the main reasons why I remember it was because there were several planes that crashed right about the same time, and a couple of them this was Delta Flight 191, and people started joking about Delta, saying Delta stands for don't even leave the airport. So,
because it's canceled.
Yeah, well, maybe not canceled, but they were having a bad thing of flying, and this does fall under our.
Feels good.
191 heavy.
We're not getting any bad warnings from the weather or from other pilots, which we rely on as they come through it.
As the pilots of Delta 191 prepare for landing, the rain begins to fall harder. At the foot of the runway, one of the most ferocious types of storm cloud stands in their way.
Before landing check. Landing gear.
Down 3.
Yeah, so they're not even showing anything on the ground-based or they're not getting any warnings from the ground or from they've got onboard radars at this time.
Green.
At the time, the type of storm the Delta crew is approaching barely has a name. John McCarthy is one of the world's leading experts on these storms.
It is a tiny thing, meteorologically speaking, compared to a big storm or a snowstorm or a hurricane. It's just like a needle in a haystack.
The needle is a microburst, one of the deadliest and at the time most poorly understood weather phenomena.
Now, see, now we know all about microburst compared to that was 85. So you got to think about when you're trying to look back at the weather from that long ago, not that long ago, we haven't learned about weather too much in the last few years or in the last. We've learned, let me rephrase that. We've learned a lot about the weather in the last 40 years. So it's kind of hard to.
Well, that's why there's so many small plane crashes like that.
Oh
is
yeah.
because those microbursts, they come out of nowhere.
Oh yeah. Well, this guy said
They've taken down airliners before. But as Delta 191 makes its approach, there are no warning systems that can effectively alert the pilots of the danger they're in.
Prior to 1985, the radars on board the aircraft were built to detect thunderstorms, essentially heavy areas of precipitation. They were not effective. They were not even designed to detect the microburst.
If you're at the kitchen sink and you turn on the water and it goes straight down and it splashes out in all directions. The bad
plane hits a microburst, it encounters a complex and powerful set of conditions. Downdrafts and tailwinds batter a plane. It's a deadly combination.
And see, the same thing
Just short
happens
of
to
the runway,
semis.
Delta 191
Oh, I can
flies into
imagine.
the microburst.
I'd guess y'all would be worse than hitting or hit like straight line
We're
winds.
gonna lose it all of a sudden. There it is.
Well, see, that pilot even been through it before.
Push it up. Push it way up. Way up. Way up.
And they're getting ready for approach, so that one pilot's trying to get ready for landing, and the other pilot.
He's gonna crash.
That animation's a little bit off. So, yeah, after that crash there, they upgraded all the plane's radars to be able to be Doppler 2, which can detect wind motion and stuff like that.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
That plane, when it crashed, even though they did, I like that off a show called Mayday, which I like watching, or Air Disasters. And it actually hit the overpass or hit one of the major interstate highways that ran right by the airport, and actually that's what it hit first. So one of the people that was fatally injured on there was actually a car on the interstate. So yeah, and I'm sure you couldn't even see that coming.
You never can see it, especially at night. The wind and those microbursts are hideous in a storm. All you can do is slow down and just try to ride it out.
I've been through them on the highway before, never in a semi or nothing, and I know even then you'll see cars. I remember when I did AC work driving back from or driving down to Orlando, there was like, I probably in about a 10-mile area, I probably saw 20 cars in the ditch that had been blown off the highway, and I was right behind the storm when it was coming through, so I was getting hit pretty hard too. But
yep.
You know, I got over and started driving slow in the slow lane. So
yeah, it's a very tricky situation to be in, especially in these springtime storms. As I always say, have your go bag ready. Have your medicine, your ID, backup medical cards, proof of insurance, you know, protein bars, water, all this stuff you can rotate out. Every 6 months it needs to be rotated out. But you need to have that emergency prepare bag.
Yeah, and we do the same thing for hurricanes here in Florida. A little bit different, I guess, because a little bit different. You know, a lot of ours is for waterproofing.
Well, number one, you don't know how long you're going to be without power. You don't know how long you're going to be displaced from your home. You don't know if you're going to be traveling, how you're going to get back home. Just be prepared, folks. This is not a crazy thing. This is a smart thing to do. You're not a crazy prepper if you have emergency supplies.
I mean, not that you really can go overboard, but I can see where it can go overboard. It's kind of like whenever people overpack for stuff. You don't want it to take 30 minutes for you to.
And there are people who go absolutely loco with it. I will agree. There are people out there that do that. But smart people do things wisely. You know, most people don't have more than 3 days worth of food in their house.
I probably don't have more than 3 days worth of food in my house, but It's also
Well,
depends on your family size too. So if you only got 2 people or even 3 people living at your house, it's a heck of a lot easier to stock up for stuff like that than it is for if you have
well,
a family of 5 and
even
6.
out here, on the truck, I carry extra food.
Because my pantry pretty much
See,
gets
I've
rotated
got
out.
food,
Well, yeah, I understand you're on the
non-perishable.
railroad, so you probably
But
have
this
food all
is
the time
part of my
anyway.
winter supply stuff that I rotate out. I cook on my truck. You never know when you're going to get stuck in a blizzard.
I know people that cook
Last
on their
thing you
truck.
want to do is get out and be walking around in that mess. You
You're
never
right
know
about
when you're
that.
going to get stuck at a truck stop that gets hit by a storm and they lose all the power.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've been in
But
those situations before.
these people,
And see, a lot of these people don't have anything left to go back to. So this was in Sulphur. They did take 2 direct hits
yeah.
from.
Brandy, it seems like that across the heartland right behind you, the very beginnings of what is a big cleanup.
Oh, exactly. We've been here all morning since, before sunrise. And as the sun came up, you started to hear that noise, the equipment coming out and people coming to check their homes and businesses. And now it is a full-on operation here. Before I talk about what's behind me, we'll turn around really quickly just so you can see here. We're in the neighborhood of Sulphur, not far from the downtown area. The city, their trucks are out, Department of Transportation, everyone hauling out debris as volunteers and homeowners are basically just moving things to the sidewalk to be cleaned up. Now, we just walked to this area and I learned that this was a trailer home, and it's honestly hard to even believe it. And so I just met the young man who lives here. His name is Raheem. Thank you for joining us on Fox Weather. I can only imagine this has been a hectic weekend for you.
Yeah, it definitely has. Yeah, it's been something.
Yeah. Now, Vicky, the woman that you rent from, she told me that you were actually home when this tornado happened. Can you kind of explain to us what went on and led to the scene that we're seeing behind us? It's hard to believe that you were inside.
Yeah. Well, it first started off, I had taken a nap earlier that day and hadn't heard anything about the storm. Didn't even know there was one coming. Maybe just like a light thunderstorm or something. That's what I expected. I was asleep on my couch. I just woke up maybe 1 minute or 30 seconds before the tornado actually hit my house. It was wild. I just remember just telling the Lord that I trust Him, and then as soon as I finished saying that word, you know what I mean? The trailer, I guess, just lifted up. I don't know exactly
about how
what
long some of them
happened, but it was
buildings have
just
been
like
there that they're showing.
I just know that it lifted up. It dropped me over here by where their storm cellar is and everything, and then, dude, I'm just getting drenched by water at that point. You know what I mean? I was inside and then I'm outside, and it was just like I'm looking around. I'm just sitting in this debris.
Confirmed that to be at
like
least
just trying to find my phone or my shoes. It was crazy.
Wow. And
That
those
town
moments
was founded
afterwards, I know you
back in
said you
the
were looking for your belongings.
1860s.
What did you do after? I mean, I know the storm wasn't over. Where'd you go?
Oh yeah. Well, so I was able to find like one work boot that I put on and pretty much helped me pretty much navigate my way safely through the debris. Made it through this pathway, like through where my fence was and everything, to the street. It's still, the rain's still coming down and everything. Like I could barely really see anything, but I seen some headlights down the road. People were trying to get through over here, but there was a tree blocking the road.
That sports lounge is where I know at least one person died at, and at least 20 were injured at. So there was a lot of people at that sports lounge. They were just
No,
showing.
it's Friday night. Everybody was out. You saw what time I got my. You saw what time I got my notification. 11:15 at night.
I mean, they were
closing times 2 a.m.
Yeah, I mean, I could see why they'd be there. I mean, no doubt. And some of them, like that guy said, he was at his mobile home. So if you're at that sports lounge and there's a tornado warning, where are you going to go to? Are you going to go get on the road and drive home to your mobile home, or are you going to be like, hey, I think I'll just hunker down here?
Hunker down here. That's all you can do when you get those notifications. So hunker down where you're at.
Yeah, I mean,
and turn around. I
Unless
was
you're
able to
like
make my
me
way
and
to
I
the
had
headlights.
nowhere
And
safe
then one
to
of my
go.
neighbors down the way, they
Right.
allowed me to come into their house and take shelter with them.
Well, I'm glad to hear that
For the
neighbors
second
being
one.
there for one another. Just
Yeah.
looking at this scene and knowing that you made it out alive, how are you feeling today? And you have all of these people here to help. You said you don't even know who they are, but they're here helping you. How are you feeling right now?
I just feel blessed, you know. I just been thanking God just every day, man. You know, you never know when your last is. And it was just, I know the situation could have been a lot worse, you know, just considering how the house is. You know, if I was anywhere else in the house, or just if anything was changed, you know, like I could not be here today. And so I'm just, thank Jesus, you know what I mean? That's how I feel about the situation, you know.
4
is
dead
good.
is amazing.
Do you know
For as
what's
bad as the
going to
damage
be
is
next? I know it's fresh.
Yeah, it's definitely brand new. I'm not sure. A lot of people are like really reaching out and trying to just help as much as they can. Right now, I'm staying with a friend until I can get something going. I still have my job. They didn't, you know, ruin car pumps or anything. That's where I work at. And it's just, so I'm just going to keep going to work and make it happen. You know, that's all I can do. I'm just happy to be alive.
Well,
See,
I'm
there's
glad you're
other
here to
trailer
talk with us today, because
trailers like that
I
back
mean,
there
this
that don't
is
even look like they were
quite
damaged.
something. And I mean, the volunteers, we've seen it throughout your neighborhood. It's been a really amazing effort. It seems like it's nonstop out here. So thank you, Raheem. I really appreciate you for sharing that story with us. And guys, we're going to continue these stories. It's important to share what's going on. Really, for one of the important.
Actually, Dion, something I saw that was quite amazing, because Sulphur, actually, it was closer to Norman, that the county fire department had their radio going, but evidently who either the person scanning or the county, Comanche County or something like that, that Norman's next to, was broadcasting multiple frequencies, and there were people calling 911 after the first tornado hit that was saying they were trapped in their storm cellars, and the fire department couldn't get to them to get them out yet. And then the second tornado hit, so it was kind of like divine intervention that got them stuck in their storm cellars.
Yeah, because otherwise they would have been out. They would have not had any protection at all for the second one to come through.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing. I mean,
you know, when God lays a hand of protection on you, you may think it's horrible at the time, but then you stop and think, you know, what, you know, if I had done this or if I had done that, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's wow. I mean, can you imagine that, being thinking that you're stuck in your storm cell and you're going to be there for hours waiting on police or fire department to come pull you out of there, and then another tornado hits, and being stuck in that storm cellar is what actually saved your life.
Yep. Within 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was right back to back, because even on the radio they couldn't tell. They were like, no, the tornado's passed. The people on the scanner was talking about how the tornado had passed, and they're like, no, it's another one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, even Ryan Hall, y'all was talking about that one.
Yeah. And here's one from Lincoln, Nebraska, which got hit really hard on Friday. Iowa and Nebraska got hit really hard on Friday.
In North Lincoln, workers survived a direct hit at the Garner Industries building. KATV News Watch 7's Alex McClune reports on how people worked together to get them home.
Gone, no roof, no nothing, everything's in shambles.
70 people survived a direct hit at Garner Industries building in Waverly just before Friday's commute home.
And all of a sudden I look over and I see that building's being all torn up by that tornado.
Kent Thompson driving by until a cloud caught him by surprise.
It picked me up and took me over the other side. I didn't tip the car over, but it just slid it across the other side.
More cars thrown away from the building. Even a train derailed. The sight startling first responders who sprung into action.
From a little ways out, you could definitely tell that it had been hit.
Deputies and firefighters getting people out of the rubble.
They went to reinforced areas, places that could be able to withstand the high winds, tornadoes, stuff like that. It worked out well for them.
The damage and destruction making cars undrivable. Workers were shuttled to a pop-up emergency shelter down the road where they shared their stories and grace to be alive.
It's kind of surreal. Everybody just kind of relaxing, calming down, and kind of redoing everything
back in their heads all over again.
It's like what they say. It was like a freight train coming. And about 5 seconds later, it was done. It just tore everything up.
I had a split second just to get in the bathroom when it came through.
All of a sudden, the building started shaking. I took off running, things flying by my head. I got in the bathroom right as the whole building collapsed.
It dropped right on top of us.
Sandhills Global Events Center, a place to reunite and ride into the weekend.
What does this say about Nebraska nice?
You know, it's just how we roll, right?
In Waverly, Alex McClune, KETV, Newswatch 7.
And that happened actually not far from our corporate headquarters for the trucking company I work for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here's one that Dion sent me, and I haven't even looked at this one yet. And,
that would be 3 of them running side by side.
Yeah. I was watching some of those on there, and I know one of them was trying to die out, and it was trying to decide which one wanted to be the one in charge on this one. So lucky this was so much of Nebraska. And
yeah, that outside funnel wall is forming hard and heavy.
Yeah.
I can see now why they're calling that the F4.
Holy cow!
And I know a lot of times the video don't pick it up, but that air turns green, green, green.
Yeah, it does.
Hang on. Blow on a window if we're not careful. Oh, that's close right now. Hang on, guys. It's Joe. I got us. Hold on.
You got a problem?
Yeah, I got a problem. Oh! Stop!
Wow.
So, yeah, folks, be emergency prepared and ready for this stuff. Have you an extra supply of medicine, at least 7 to 14 days. Have you some spare cash. Have you some protein bars and some water and a first aid kit, spare socks, whatever you think you might need, a poncho. Put it
I
in a
would
bag.
definitely recommend a poncho if you were going to go through that. I would definitely recommend having a poncho. I mean, like I said, there.
But make sure you put your shoes on.
Yeah. Wear clean underwear.
Well, no, the more the thing is if you have shoes on, you can deal with the wood and the splinters and the glass and possibly stepping on a nail.
Yeah.
When they're predicting bad weather, just put your shoes on and wear them in the house. I know some of you don't like to do that, but it might save your life.
Because you can tell, I mean, honestly, you can usually tell when you're about to get hit by a hurricane. So, yeah, I mean, by a tornado. So, yes, have some shoes on. Get some plastic bags, too, like grocery bags or something, too. So
33-gallon garbage bag is so multi-use, it's unreal. It will serve as a poncho.
I thought I had more of the Nebraska, Indiana tornadoes. But I do have one more that is from the sulfur one. That the sulfur tornado was most of what I was tracking.
Ross, you're so cool.
Ross, I usually wear shoes too everywhere. Like tonight before the show, I went and had to put my jeans on instead of my shorts on because I was getting eaten by mosquitoes. And plus, you never know what you're going to step in. So.
Well,
especially if you have a house with kids in it. So
I think the whole night show was pretty much saying you never know what's going to pop up, what's going to happen. You just need to be prepared. You don't need to be scared. Be prepared.
And
Have
that
a
is very
plan.
true. So
Whether you're facing hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding, being broke down, having massive power outages from high wind storms, or heck, we just come out of winter. You could go ice storm, blizzard.
yeah, there was a few of those this year too.
So just be prepared.
So here's the last one I'll show for tonight, I guess. And this was from Sulphur once again. I'm going to go ahead and show this one. This was from the bar where a lot of these people were injured at in Sulphur. Sulphur's not that big either. So,
no, it's not.
In Oklahoma killed 4 people. One of the deaths happened in Sulphur, about 100 miles north of Denton. A woman died inside a sports bar where the roof collapsed. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager spoke to the owner of that bar, who was there Saturday night when the building came down.
What else am I going to do? If I don't smile, I'm going to cry. So, got to smile.
Monday, Raina Valcoon had to put on a brave face. The owner of Raina's sports bar in Sulphur was forced to visit the same spot where she was trapped just 48 hours ago. Saturday evening, a deadly EF3 tornado tore through the small Oklahoma town. Nearly a dozen people were trapped inside her bar as the roof collapsed.
So I turned around here and dove down next to the bar, next to the wall. And I dove down and got myself an air pocket, and then the building fell on me. All the brick and everything, I was buried.
Valcoon, thankful someone found her. Her friend was killed, and 3 others are in the ICU.
And when they dug me out, we got out finally, and then was trying to find everybody. And yeah, and we were told that they'd gotten everybody out, and we found out. We all asked, "Where's Sheila? Where's Sheila?" And we couldn't find her, and they didn't find her the next day.
In the heart of downtown Sulphur, people were still taking in the damage on Monday. Power crews were hard at work, and homeowners made some headway at clearing debris.
And I'm here in a neighborhood in Sulphur, here at this home. I'm standing in what's left of the kitchen of Steve Wheeler's home, which is completely exposed. The ceiling is gone. He tells me he was not home at the time of the tornado. Thankfully, he and his fiance are okay, but he tells me if he was here, he probably would have came to this bathroom, which the back wall was completely blown out, and his backyard is exposed, and it shows the damage of this block. It is just one home after another that's destroyed, and each one of them have a different story.
It's just over there by the school, so I would say about 4 or 5 blocks.
Mother Alex Campbell drove in the middle of the storm to pick up her 2 children from their grandparents' house. Thankfully, the whole family is safe.
I was pretty terrified. That's why I'm glad that I got them out, into the shelter in time so they didn't have to experience that.
You see all this destruction, and yet it looked exactly like it did the Sunday before.
Just steps away from the devastation, the First Christian Church of Sulphur sits unharmed. The 100-year-old stained glass windows survived, now a symbol of strength.
When we came in here after the tornado and all the windows were unscathed, we walked in the sanctuary and it looked just like it did on Sunday morning. It's just got to be hope that, somebody's watching over us.
In Sulphur, Peyton Yeager, Fox 4 News.
Another look at the tornado on the ground.
That was the same one I showed a second ago. So
I would like to take this time to thank all the emergency people who worked there, the fire department, the first responders, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, the Sheriff's Department, the City Police Department, and the tribal Chickasaw Nation Tribal Police Department. They have all been down there trying to coordinate and make sure everybody has a place to go. Their stuff is still safe. Y'all, this was a devastating storm.
This has been a devastating. It's not over yet, so It's still going. Like,
Thank you to the American Red Cross for setting up a shelter in Ardmore and Marietta. Thank you for the all the if you follow me on my personal page, there are numerous charities that are doing direct support for these folks.
that's
Oh, looky.
wonderful. I mean, yeah, I was just going to
That's
show this real
tonight.
quick. No, that's
It's
yeah, that's
tonight.
right now. That's right now.
Well, zoom on in and
There's
see where I'm sitting.
I don't know where are you sitting at. I'm just pulling up the warnings right now, and you can tell
Oh,
around
well, I'm going to be
Lawton,
driving into it.
Roosevelt, and Cooperton
Thank
look
you,
like
Miss
they're
Tina
going.
Thompson.
Yeah.
I will be driving into this bad boy here shortly. I have to go deliver to Lawton, and then I have to go down to Abilene.
Lawton, I think, where's Lawton at? Yeah, Lawton is actually under a tornado warning right now. Lawton is actually on the edge of it. It's moving their way. Roosevelt, you can tell looks like it's growing, even though this one down here tends to show more rotation. If you ever wonder about the velocity radars and stuff like that right there, that's bad. That big line of green and pink right there.
Yeah, that big green right there. When it turns purple, you're in trouble. That's the eye of it.
Well, kind of. Yeah, the purple is just that purple right there is questionable, I guess you could say. But the one thing is the way these radars work is the green shows it blowing away from the radar, the red shows it blowing towards the radar, or vice versa. And this storm has a lot of freaking. This is where you would have a microburst at right now before you had the tornado. So this one doesn't look like it's organized enough right now. This one down here, you can kind of see how it's starting to swirl around, like right there where that little red and pink blast comes out at, where it shows the tornado line, and it looks like they just got rid of a thunderstorm warning.
Yeah, if you don't have a weather app, you need to get something like this just so you can keep yourself safe.
And this also looks like there's some rotation in this one by and I can't pronounce all these names. David Monroe and Wapella County, Oregon. So that one looks like it could too. Another thing that just before we end, do not think that storm sirens are there were made to warn you about her tornadoes. They are put in there from bombing days. They're Cold War and World War II when we were worried about being bombed. If you do not live close enough to a siren, you are more than likely going to have a phone. Now they send out alerts on your phone, TV, radio, portable radio. So do not rely on, everybody's always like the sirens never went off or something like that. And most people, if you're off the grid enough to where you don't have one of those devices to warn you,
get you a NORAD weather.
NOAA.
NORAD
would be warning about the bombs coming in. NOAA would be the storms. So.
Well, you can set those things for any alert.
So,
but yeah.
Yeah.
You sign up for local emergency alerts on your cell phone. I don't have the emergency alert. It just automatically comes through.
I don't know how it is in some places, but I know here they go off anyway because, like, if you'll be in Walmart or something like that, and you get a tornado warning, you can't even talk in there because there's everybody's phones going off, and the TVs too. So, yeah, and if that's what people should be fighting for instead of storm sirens, because do not rely on storm sirens for anything such as that.
Yeah, get you a weather emergency alert system of some kind.
Right, and also I would say do not rely on just the Weather Channel for your information.
Because they're they're not focused on everything. Find you a
Right.
somebody that you can follow, like Ryan Hall.
Right.
There are
I
many
would also
others
say
out there.
try to follow you a local station. They usually go live on Facebook or YouTube whenever there's a major event like that occurring, because your local news stations, I would say, except for, well, depending on where you live, Oklahoma has storm chasers all out all the time whenever something like this is going on. In fact, I was following a station earlier from Oklahoma City. It wasn't even in their viewing range, but they had 2 or 3 storm chasers out, and your local weatherman's going to know more about your area than somebody in Atlanta, where, say, a major news
Or
station
Chicago.
or Chicago, you know, they're going to know more about what's going on your weather than what the weather station's going to know, than what the national weather stations are going to know. So, and also they're half the time is just advertising too. So
Yeah.
whenever you find a station that doesn't go off the air to advertise constantly, that's whenever what I'd look for anyway. So,
but I'm going to tell you, it has been a wild weekend. It looks like I'm going to be in for another long, wild night.
Well, prayers to you, Sally. Prayers for your safety.
God's got this. He is my protector.
And make sure the store stays stocked.
Oh, I'll do the best I can with what I got. But anyway, don't be scared. Be prepared.
Right.
Be informed. Have an emergency plan. Practice this plan if you have small children, so that you're not listening to why, what for. They know when you say, get in the storm shelter, they need to go.
Yeah, we don't have a storm shelter, but oh wow.
So
now that
anyway,
one in Oklahoma looks like it's starting to kick up debris. I am going to get out of here real quick, but yeah, this one here looks like it is starting to kick up debris. So yes, if you're in this area, if you're in the area that I'm sorry, I've just forgot your name, but if you're in Tipton, Tina or Lawton, I mean,
Tina
yeah,
Thompson.
that storm could very well be growing a lot. So keep an eye out on it. All right. So I'll take that down now. I do like the weather, by the way, if you couldn't tell.
Well, you don't like it so much when you have to work in it all the time, but it is what it is. And thank you, Miss Ruth. I definitely need your prayers, and I will stay safe as I can.
I learned from it so much from having to work in it so much. So. All right.
So we've been on an hour and 7 minutes. Was about normal for us. Just remember, don't be scared. Be prepared. And sometimes just remember, just have to say, truck it.
Truck it. Y'all have a good night, everybody, and stay safe. This will be a long-lasting storm system throughout the next week at least. So have a good night, everybody.
We'll see you, Nick.